Hello guys, so this is gameplay of the Kashyyyk Islands map between the Empire and the Rebels. Now, in 2004, when Star Wars Battlefront was originally released, specifically September 2004, to coincide with the release of the original trilogy on DVD, this game was very popular, and it would also go right into Battlefront 2 just 1 year later with incredible success. This game remains in the minds of many gamers, particularly younger millennials such as myself, those born in the early 90s. Generally speaking, these games have remained an incredible part of our childhoods. I remember playing Star Wars Battlefront starting about July 2005, and I really enjoyed it. I was exclusively a PC gamer. I know that makes me a bit strange, but I've always been a PC gamer at heart. I've never really liked console games very much, but I do appreciate what console games have done for the gaming industry. This map, in particular, is very interesting because unlike a lot of FPS games that were released at this time, Battlefield 2, for example, was a juggernaut. However, I always thought that Battlefield 2 was inferior to the original in Battlefield Vietnam, mainly because its maps were generally bland in the way they looked, and always they seemed to have only the same map gameplay over and over again. That being Striking Parland, sometimes it would be Striking the Peninsula map. Can't pronounce the first part of that, and generally speaking, those were only really the most popular maps, honestly. Every other map, like Operation Clean Sweep, these maps were too big, and simply put, they had a lack of focus on them. So, but one thing Star Wars Battlefront really had is its level design is incredible. Now, in order to accommodate the weaker PS2 and original Xbox, the interiors aren't the best in Battlefront, that's for sure, and especially when you compare it to the EA Battlefront games, which have a lot more detail in the interiors. I recently bought like Starfleet like about 6 months ago, roughly, and actually about 7 months ago. And to be honest, it is one of those games that, you look at the interiors and like it's just so incredible how much detail there is in Starfield, despite the criticism of how big the game is. But going back to Kashyyyk Islands, one of the things I like about Kashyyyk Islands, it's not a map that has a lot of balance to it. The faction that has the support of the Wookiees, the Rebels, or the Republic, generally speaking, is the one that's going to win the game. Mainly because Wookiees in this game have a lot of health points. This is a very important thing you have to remember, because unlike most FPS games, Star Wars Battlefront actually has a third faction in the game. Be it on, Tatooine, the Dune Sea, being the Tusken Raiders, or on Mos Eisley with the Jawas walking around repairing medical droids, animal droids, and turrets. But the thing about Kashyyyk Islands and the Kashyyyk docks as well is that the Wookiees are on the side of the Rebels or the Republic. So the Empire and the droids, or the CIS as they're called in the prequels, though the opposing faction that's trying to take over this village has a lot more work that they have to do. The Wookiees, with their crossbows, which are very powerful. I'm sorry, the bowcaster. The bowcasters are very powerful, very versatile weapons that can be charged up. And you can fire one burst, or you can charge it up for a burst that spreads out. But also, the Wookiees in this game have a lot of health. So every single time that the Empire or the CIS are sending any sort of troops over here, they have to deal with the fact that you're fighting against player characters who choose the Wookiee warrior character, and then you have a small contingent of AI-controlled third faction soldiers, being that the Wookiees warriors, who also engage in battle and are very efficient with their bowcasters. So, they have to fight against, essentially, two sets of troops. This is one of the reasons I love Kashyyyk Islands, because it isn't a balanced map. It doesn't try to be balanced. And I feel like sometimes, there's too much emphasis on the modern FPS scene like Fortnite and other games to make everything balanced. When you have it kind of be a struggle, it makes the games more realistic, but also it makes the games more entertaining. People have to use their brains more, they have to strategize more. Now, Star Wars Battlefront has always been kind of it is a game that is kind of, especially the first game, it's not incredibly complex in some ways. In some ways it is complex, in other ways it's not. So I feel like the vehicles in this game, like for example, one of the reasons why I think the developers put vehicles on Kashyyyk Islands was to kind of give the Empire and the CIS some sort of a chance to win the battle. As long as they had the right vehicles at the right time, I use them in they also have bombers on this map, by the way, which they don't have on the UMC map. So, this is to show, that they want to give at least the opposing player some sort of chance to take over this village. One thing I really do like, though, is that when you look at the trailers for Star Wars Battlefront, the game is very much, and even though like the game had older builds, and there is video of like an unreleased demo where they have like the assassin droid being kind of an IG-88 model, the game really much represents, these trailers represent how the game actually plays. And it's not like, something like you have Anthem where they literally are lying to you about how the game plays. Like, this is how the game in its older builds was very similar to this. And what you see on the tin, like with Star Wars Battlefront, is what you get, and that's what I love about this game, as well as the sequel. And I think that there were a lot of interesting ideas in Star Wars Battlefront. What the kind of things we didn't even see very much of, like having like the more Wookiee, the kind of the third faction characters, like the Wookiee warriors, on this map. It gives a kind of a sense of weight to the battle. Unlike in a lot of games where, you go into a city, there's like no civilians, it would make sense that there would be Wookiees on this map that want to defend their village, and they help the rebels or the Republic, and I like that about it. It makes the game, it makes the game harder for the opposing side, but it also makes it more rewarding at the end of the match if you actually manage to beat the rebels or the Republic, and that's an incredible thing. So, the game is dated, but it's not dated in the wrong ways. I think the game has a lot of, you know, there's something about Star Wars Battlefront. It just comes across as a much more genuine type of Star Wars experience that isn't trying to be about unlocks or how much money you have, but about strategy and who's the best shot. And it doesn't try to obsess about rewards. It's just about teamwork and working together. And overall, I think this is one of the reasons why I think Star Wars Battlefront, especially the original game, is probably one of the best FPS games that is devoted to multiplayer that I've ever seen in the video game industry. So, those are just my thoughts. Please leave the comments down below, and please remember to subscribe. Thank you for watching this video.